credit cards are a useful tool. However, they can also be a burden. In our regular personal finance slot, we're looking at credit cards and, importantly, their hidden costs. Finance columnist Maya Fisher-French joins us now all the way from Cape Town to give us some clarity on this. Maya, good to have you as always. Good morning. Now, I understand that you wrote an article about credit insurance charged on credit cards. This after a complaint from a reader, or rather a viewer. So define it for us. What is credit insurance and is it mandatory?
Yeah, so this actually came from a pensioner who contacted me. And, he wanted to take out a credit card at Time Banks. Time Banks been advertising their credit cards. And like a good personal finance person, he went and read the T's and C's and discovered that the Time Bank credit card, which is managed by RCS, makes credit insurance mandatory. Now, credit insurance, we've spoken a lot about it on this show because it covers your repayments, even sometimes your outstanding debt if you die, become disabled or retrenched, loss of income. So you remember during COVID, we wanted to really make sure people were aware whether or not they had this insurance because they could have made claims. But this pensioner is saying to me, Maya, I don't really need this credit insurance because I only spend 5,000 Rand a month and I pay it off in full at the end of the month. Is it mandatory? And actually, the answer is yes. The National Credit Act says that a credit provider may make credit insurance compulsory, but it has to meet certain rules. So it cannot charge more than R4.50 per 1,000 Rand of the outstanding balance. And also, you cannot charge someone who's unemployed or a pensioner a rate that includes retrenchment cover, because obviously in this case the pensioner couldn't be retrenched. And that in this case is a little bit of a contentious point, but yes, currently Time Bank or RCS has the right to require credit insurance on their credit card.
Now, I understand that besides Time Bank, you also went through other banks and investigated their policies on credit insurance for credit cards. What is the practice at the other banks?
Well, this is where it got really interesting because I spoke to all the banks, ABSA, Standard Bank, Nedbank, Capitec, FNB. None of them make credit insurance mandatory, which explains why this pensioner was quite surprised because his existing credit card doesn't charge this. They all say, yes, we recommend it, but we don't make it mandatory, except Capitec, who said, look, if we see a significant risk in the client, we may make it a requirement. But it was quite interesting that, the other banks are not asking for it. And also all of them did differentiate. So they actually charge a pensioner less for their credit insurance if the pensioner chose to take it than they would somebody who was working, because they wouldn't have to include that retrenchment cover in it. Now, if you have a look at it, and we spoke about the hidden costs. So if you do have credit insurance or it's mandatory in your credit card, in this particular case, you look at this pensioner who said he spends 5,000 Rand a month. That would add about 22.50 Rand a month to his credit card costs. So at the moment, his credit card costs would be 60 Rand. That would make it 82.50 Rand. And then, okay, so this is a personal experience. My husband has a Time Bank credit card, and he never read the T's and C's. So now he's discovered, on going back and on me doing this article, that he went and spent 20,000 on his credit card booking some flights. Suddenly, that was another 90 Rand of costs. So it's so important when we take our credit, any credit, that we read the fine print and we really understand what the costs are. And yes, there's always a place for credit insurance, but you've got to assess your own risk. If you're someone who's paying off your credit card in full at the end of every month, is this really a cost you need to incur?
That's a very good advice and good information shared there. Thank you so much, Maya. Of course, making sure that we do make those sound financial decisions. And I suppose, Gareth, that's where you come in with the point around education, around credit insurance. So educate yourself, but also read those T's and C's.
I can't help but think with financial education in schools, there needs to be a very clear breakdown of how to use a credit card and how to avoid certain things. Because have you read the T's and C's on a credit card? I haven't. It's like page 150 or 400. Who reads that? Now, you should, I understand, but most people don't. So it's always good to have Maya on as well. Right, just before